Hi everyone, today we are going to review another horrible case with you. Please support my channel, click on subscribe, and on the bell. Black Widow. All of you have probably watched the famous sitcom Friends. It tells about the life of 6 friends who live in the neighborhood. So in episode 9 of season 8, Monica and Joey have a dialogue. "What's in there, Pie?" Joey asked. Monica confirmed and offered to give it a try. The guy asked for a tiny slice, however, then corrected a few times. "Bigger. More. What are you afraid of? Cut a normal piece." I think everyone realized it was about greed. This humorous miniature only at first glance seems funny, but for our story today, it's a perfect fit. Another crime story about what unbridled desires lead to, as well as greed, selfishness, and lies. Farewell. Spring 2007. The city of Newport News, Virginia, USA. The funeral of Corey Voss, a young officer of the U.S. Navy, was held, as it should be, in a solemn atmosphere. At the farewell ceremony was attended by the leadership of the servicemen, as well as colleagues, family, friends, and simply indifferent residents. A well-meaning husband, father of 2 children, and a promising sailor was shot dead in the passenger compartment of his truck. The killer left no chance of survival. And while Marine police agents joined forces with the city's police department in search of the perpetrator, people said goodbye to Corey. They said the world was orphaned to another bright soul, they said of Corey. However, a great loss was suffered by the man's inner circle, his parents, wife, and children. Barbara Wilson, the protagonist's mother, was devastated. But even more depressing was the sad sight that unfolded in the cemetery. The grief-stricken widow was sobbing inconsolably and wailing over her husband's grave. Her reaction did not surprise those present. Many thought that Catherine Voss had lost her beloved husband, male support, and well-being. However, few guessed that behind the heartbreaking scene is a fake love and double life of the newly widowed. Background. Corey Allen Voss was born in 1977 in the city of Berwyn, Illinois. He grew up in a prosperous and friendly family, was surrounded by attention and love. At the same time, he was a little stiff and uncommunicative. In adolescence, the guy got involved with a bad company, from which he often caused problems. His mother often repeated that Corey has a great future, if, of course, he lives to 18 years and does not fit in anywhere. His mother's words proved prophetic. The difficult period was left behind as soon as the young man graduated from high school. He was very determined and wanted to connect his life with military service. After receiving a bachelor's degree, he joined the Navy. After graduation, he earned a prestigious military profession and was assigned to the Norfolk Naval Base in southeastern Virginia. The hardships of Army life did not intimidate Voss. He possessed an inquisitive mind, endless work ethic, and a resilient spirit. Corey wanted his parents to be proud of him. It must be said that his efforts were noted not only by his family, but also by his superiors. The young military man had great potential and received a rank in 4 courses of study. His co-workers often joked that he got to the Navy like a duck in the water. Fateful acquaintance. In 1999, a pleasant change occurred in Corey's life. During a vacation, he met a girl named Catherine Wiggins. She impressed him with her charisma, appetizing forms, and exotic accent. As Kat later told him, she was originally from Ukraine. However, she moved to the States in high school. The young people liked each other and soon began dating. It can be said that Corey met his first love. After 3 months, the romantic relationship bore fruit. Catherine became pregnant, and in 2000, the couple got married. Later, Barbara Wilson admitted that the young people signed not because of the child, and because the son, and without that, was going to legitimize their feelings. In the same year, the couple had a daughter, Casey, and a year later, a son, Corey Jr. The Voss family resembled a classic American family. The couple got along well with each other, the children grew up in love and care. They had a good income, a beautiful house. The financial situation allowed Kat not to work, to be engaged in the household and upbringing of the boys. At the same time, the woman did not deny herself anything, drove a BMW, dressed well, watched her appearance. Her husband in every way idolized her and worked for the good of the family. Corey's military career was going uphill. In 2005, he received the rank of officer and promotion. The only negative point was the numerous business trips of the head of the family. However, and with this task, the couple coped amicably. Distance was replaced by the joy of meetings, and feelings always remained fresh. At the same time, the man tried to spend all his free time with his children. Later, they often recalled this and believed that their father gave them everything he could. April 27th. In January 2007, Corey Voss was assigned to the ship Elrod. Finally, when the man returned from a long business trip, Catherine decided to pleasantly surprise him. In the evening of April 27th, she organized a romantic dinner by candlelight. When the children went to bed, she suddenly remembered that she had not prepared money to pay for lunches at school, so she asked her husband to drive to the nearest ATM to cash out the card. Corey, despite his fatigue, did not refuse his beloved wife. At around 11:30 p.m., he got behind the wheel of his truck and drove away from home. He did not return home after that. The night became restless for Catherine, who tried to find her husband. She repeatedly called his cell phone, but it was not answered. She even dialed the dispatch office at the naval base. The woman decided to check if perhaps he had been called to work on the way. However, the response from Norfolk employees was negative, so she started calling all the hospitals in the city. However, he was not there either. On April 28th, around 6 a.m., a frightened Mrs. Voss contacted emergency services. She told the dispatcher about her trouble and asked if Corey had been in an accident. The dispatcher verified the information and advised that no such thing had been reported. The emergency worker advised the caller not to hesitate and contact law enforcement. Catherine took the advice and was at the police station within an hour. Finding. When the officers listened to Catherine, it was decided to start the investigation immediately. The search for the missing man began literally in the first hours after the report was received. By lunchtime, police received a call from a woman. She reported a suspicious truck in the parking lot, but more attention of a random passerby attracted a man in the driver's seat. The man was in an unnatural pose and was not moving. This fact worried her, and she decided to report what she saw. The description of the vehicle found was similar to the missing Corey truck. When patrol officers arrived at the address, some scary things came to light. The vehicle was in a supermarket parking lot and did indeed belong to the wanted man. The man behind the wheel turned out to be Corey Voss, and he was dead. His body was mangled with gunshot wounds. 3 bullets pierced his abdomen, 1 each to his arm and chest. It was unclear what happened to the military man who had just gone to the ATM. The first version that detectives assumed was a robbery, but at first glance, nothing was missing. There was a weighty wedding ring on the dead man's hand. Also, there were no signs of a struggle or a search for anything in the car. So the authorities immediately switched to the more serious assumption: murder. However, who needed the death of a naval officer, and for what purpose? The investigation was decided to begin with the establishment of the facts of the personal life of the victim and his immediate environment. Interrogations began with Catherine Voss, Corey's 32-year-old wife. Witness statements. As soon as Kat was informed of her husband's death, she became hysterical. The officers even offered to call a doctor or take the widow to the hospital. However, in time she calmed down somewhat and was able to speak. Mrs. Voss recounted in detail the events of the previous evening, a romantic dinner, and a request to go to an ATM. Then she described her efforts to find Corey. To the questions of investigators about possible enemies, she answered categorically no. Catherine admitted that her spouse was an unconflicted and friendly person who was unlikely to have any problems. At least, she would have known about them, as they trusted each other. The marriage of the Voss couple seemed perfect, and at first glance there was no doubt about it. However, cases of murder motivated by jealousy or greed were not uncommon. That's why it was necessary to properly vet the spouse herself. Corey's relatives could not say anything bad about him. They also believed that he was loved by everyone around him. At the same time, unexpected circumstances regarding Catherine came to light. Corey's mother revealed that the young spouse was dishonest by marrying her son. It turns out that while she was dating Corey, she was married and had a daughter. However, when she found out she was pregnant, she confessed everything to her husband and divorced him. At the same time, leaving the child from her first marriage to live with her grandmother. Barbara admitted that this news was shocking. However, at that time, Kat was already divorced, and Corey was very much in love and was looking forward to the birth of a daughter. At the same time, the woman reported that this became the only thing that was stressful about the daughter-in-law. Other than that, she was wonderful. After her testimony, authorities decided to find Mrs. Voss's ex-husband and talk to him. Steve Larson revealed that he met his ex-wife while in high school. They had a strong love affair, which resulted in the 17-year-old getting pregnant. Since their parents were against the relationship, the couple decided to elope. When everyone learned about Catherine's interesting situation, were forced to accept their union. It is noteworthy that Larson was also a military man who was often absent due to business trips. After returning from one of them, the spouse confessed everything, and afterwards added that she filed for divorce and left. At the same time, he said that he was ready to forgive her infidelity if she had not been so determined. Joint life with his wife he described as an eternal struggle. The family often quarreled over money. According to Steve's words, there was always not enough money for Catherine. After these stories, Mrs. Voss's personality no longer seemed ideal. Representatives of the authorities also talked to the base management and the seafarers' colleagues. None of them had anything bad to say about him. Officer Voss was considered exemplary in every way. He built his military career by himself. During his service, he had received numerous awards. Everyone argued that there was hardly anyone who would take his life because of a disagreement on the job. In order to investigate the murder, the Marine Police joined forces with the Land Police. A direct line was organized where anyone could call and report information of interest to the case. The public was extremely outraged by the death of the military officer and demanded the quick capture of the culprit. The media fueled the excitement and voiced all sorts of assumptions about what had happened. Evidence. In parallel with the collection of data on the family of Corey, other investigative activities were taking place. To learn about what happened on the night of April 27th, detectives requested surveillance footage from a store near the ill-fated ATM. A man resembling Corey did appear at the time in question. He attempted to withdraw money 3 times. However, there were insufficient funds on the card. After unsuccessful attempts, he proceeded to his truck. But as soon as he got behind the wheel, a man in all black got into the passenger seat. Unfortunately, we didn't get a good look at the passenger's face. However, through the windshield, it was visible that he pulled out a gun and pointed it at the naval officer. The car then veered off toward another supermarket and into a blind spot. Based on the available evidence, it was clear that the intruder did not intend to rob the victim. His goal was premeditated murder. Otherwise, he would have taken everything of value that was in plain sight. But he didn't. It is unlikely that someone could have prevented him because no one was recorded in the vicinity. The search for witnesses continued. Twofaced Catherine. A turning point for the investigation came after Ashley Doyle, a friend of Catherine Voss, called the hotline. The woman said that the widow appeared different than she really was. The thing is, Catherine was leading a double life. When her husband was away on business trips, she met other men. Kat went to bars and got acquainted there, posing as a native of Ukraine. In reality, it was a blatant lie. She was born and raised in Newport News, and her parents were Native Americans. Catherine imitated a foreign accent in order to have fun and to be in the constant attention of the male sex. She lied to everyone around her, and even her husband's family believed it. And it had to be said, it worked. She had tons of admirers. To go on dates, she would leave her children with relatives. Otherwise, she gave them an antihistamine with sedative properties. While the babies slept, she could do whatever she wanted. Ashley also admitted that since the end of 2006, her friend began dating a certain Michael Draven. Catherine met him on the internet and fell in love with him hard. The man presented himself as a rather famous and wealthy photographer. His MySpace account confirmed this, which initially enticed Catherine. She bragged to Ashley that, according to her lover, he was receiving a six-figure sum. However, it later turned out that it was all little more than dust in the eyes. The man lived in Newport News in an ordinary trailer with his mother and had no steady income. It frustrated Kat. She had fallen into a love trap. But since the woman was madly in love, she forgave the deception and continued the futile relationship. While Corey was absent for work, Michael often visited their home. The pal also shared her dreams of divorce, to which Ashley remarked that in the case of a breakup, her usual way of life would change. Voss replied that she would deal with it somehow. That was why Ashley had been so disturbed when she'd learned what had happened. She was suspicious of Catherine. This information shed light on the true relationship between the couple, now favorably represented otherwise, Lizivaya, Belichnoi, wrong and mercantile woman. Possible, whether the new boyfriend was the one who wanted to take the place of her husband and rid of the only obstacle on the way to happiness? Or is it maybe a conspiracy of two persons with the purpose of eliminating unlawful third? A what-if witness Elgal and wanted to Oglethie unhappy. It turns out that Michael Draven is indeed related to Catherine Voss. Thanks to social media, it was found that the young people were in close contact. Just a couple days after Corey's death, Michael posted pictures of himself with Kat and her children. Above one of them, he left the caption, "My daughter Casey." The man clearly claimed to be her future husband. Since it was not possible to meet him, investigators talked to his mother. During the conversation, some curious things came to light. Her son changed his real name from Anthony Neff to Michael Anthony Draven. The man did this in honor of the main character of the movie The Crow, which he wanted to be like. In general, he had a dream to build a movie career. But in fact, everything was reduced to roles in the crowd in low-budget films. He lived off a part-time newspaper delivery boy and was a lab rat. For a fee, he took part in testing drugs and different methods of treatment. Lamentation. To clear up the Voss family's financial situation, detectives pulled up recent transactions. It became apparent that a few days after her husband's death, Catherine received a $100,000 payout as a military wife. Afterward, she traveled with her children on a trip. Catherine positioned the vacation as an opportunity for a change of scenery and to distract the little ones. However, in fact, spent a romantic vacation with her lover. Financial operations on the card showed that just a few weeks she spent all the money. At the same time, the widow did not deny herself anything. Lived in an expensive hotel, ate in fashionable restaurants, bought brand-name clothes and cosmetics, pampered herself with jewelry. When Catherine returned home, she had only $900 left on her account. It also became known that she did not save available funds as soon expected to receive insurance in $400,000. Additionally, she was entitled to child welfare money, $300 a month for each child. She was also entitled to a survivor benefit of $500 to $700 monthly for the rest of her life. Kat's profligacy was also confirmed by her aunt Carol Wiggins. She said that after her grandmother died, her niece inherited $25,000. When the money was in her possession, her eyes lit up like a rat in a cheese factory. That same day, they went shopping. Catherine was not stingy, spending not only on herself, but also on Carol and her children. However, in just 3 weeks, she found herself with empty pockets. The circle of suspicion was closing more and more around the newly widowed. The police asked the insurance company not to make payments until the investigation was complete. Only Catherine probably didn't realize it. She contacted the insurer every day and complained about her hard life and debts. She even complained to her superiors. What she failed to mention was that she had just recently spent $100,000. New suspect. The detectives were getting more suspicious by the minute. but there was no direct evidence against Catherine and her boyfriend, so they decided to install a wiretap. It is the weight of the results. It became clear that the couple was nervous and hiding something. Michael and Catherine were afraid for their future, as soon as possible wanted to get insurance and leave the country. At the same time, neither of them mentioned their involvement in Corey's murder. Once in a conversation between them slipped the name of a certain David Runyon, who periodically made himself known. Then the investigators decided to shift the focus of the investigation to Morgantown, West Virginia, where this man lived. It turned out that he and Michael shared common ground. They were in clinical trials together at a research center. David himself is a former soldier and an experienced shooter who could easily get a gun and handle it professionally. 8 months after the murder of Voss, the guy was put under surveillance. His figure increasingly attracted the attention of investigators. Soon detectives got a search warrant for Runyon's house. Among the papers on the desk was a note with a shopping list. At first glance, the note did not appear to be anything special. However, drawing parallels to Corey's murder, it was thought-provoking. Among the usual items contained such items as a tarp, boots, a black hooded sweatshirt, and a knife. The 27-year-old himself didn't explain it in any way, only brushed off that there was nothing unusual for a man in the list. Also found was a .357 Magnum pistol. It was missing exactly 5 rounds, which corresponded to the number of shots fired at the naval officer. Next, the potential suspect's car was examined. Under the center console, specialists found a map with a dedicated route to Newport News and Corey's handwritten name. In the glove compartment were photos of Corey himself and his wife, Catherine. Following the search, David was taken into custody, and the gun found in the house was sent for ballistics testing. Later, the study showed that the gun was the murder weapon of Voss. During questioning, Runyon was restrained, but denied involvement in the crime and connection with Michael and Catherine. Afterwards, he refused to cooperate and asked for a lawyer. A confession. That's when the investigators pulled a trick. They did not hide the fact of David's detention and followed the reaction of the other suspects. During phone conversations between lovers, it was obvious that Michael was very scared. He even uttered a phrase that he was so scared that he was ready to throw himself off a bridge. The escape from justice did not suit the authorities, and they decided to detain the man. He was depressed and offered no resistance. During interrogation, they told him that it would be better if he confessed himself and ease his conscience. Draven then confessed to conspiring to kill Corey. He said that in January 2007, Catherine said that she wanted to divorce her husband, but at the same time, she noted that without his money it would be difficult to live. Then she suggested to Michael to eliminate the spouse and get insurance, which will provide them a trouble-free life. Since neither he nor she wanted to work, this idea seemed to him a way out of the situation. However, he was not capable of crime, so he decided to seek help from his acquaintance David Runyon, to whom he offered a reward of $20,000. The man agreed. The attackers coordinated their actions. In fact, Michael accomplished his task by finding a killer for Voss. Catherine's role was to put her husband's vigilance to sleep, organize a joint dinner, then send him to an ATM at night under false pretenses. So she helped lure her ex-lover into the hands of a criminal. The criminal himself, thoroughly prepared, purchased the necessary equipment and weapons, then sat in the car to the future victim and threatened with a gun. After that, he ordered to drive away to a place where there were no cameras and shot several times in cold blood. Regarding payment for the order, it was to be made upon receipt of insurance. Michael insisted that the executor had only received $275. That's why he often called Catherine and reminded her about the payment, and she in turn rushed the insurance agent. Perhaps David did not even realize that his customers have already received $100,000 and had time to spend them. The unfortunate victim. The only thing left to do was to get Catherine talking. To do that, the detectives pulled another stunt. They had Michael call her and tell her he'd been released. That way, she'd calm down and come get him. In reality, It turned out just as the officers had hoped. She didn't pick up the phone when the station called, but she did answer Michael's call. After that, Catherine showed up, satisfied with the favorable outcome of the case. However, soon her mood changed dramatically. She was arrested. The fact of surprise played into the hands of the investigation. Her Ukrainian accent somewhere disappeared, and the woman herself looked scared and confused. When she was told that Michael confessed to everything, she turned the tables on him. Catherine accused him of manipulation and organizing the crime. No one believed her, though. Catherine, like the other conspirators, was charged with first-degree murder. The prosecutor's office wanted to request the maximum possible punishment, the death penalty for the entire trio. This motivated the defendants to plea bargain with the prosecution in hopes of mitigating their punishment. Disappointing verdicts. In February 2008, Michael Draven made his first court appearance. He was found guilty of murder for hire, carjacking, and other related offenses. The man was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In the summer of that same year, it was David Runyon's turn. The man justified his act. Allegedly, before the crime, Michael assured him that Corey was a bad father. However, his words did not mitigate responsibility, and he was sentenced to death for the murder of a military man. The convict is currently awaiting execution on death row in a federal prison. Finally, the turn came to the main instigator of the crime. In November 2008, Catherine Voss was sentenced to 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole plus 20 years. Custody of Catherine and Corey Jr. was awarded to Corey's parents. During the trial, Barbara Wilson lamented that she in no way expected such a denouement in her son's fate. Bottom line. The love story of Corey and Catherine has a tragic ending. A triangle of 3 self-serving people ended in a brutal murder for a completely innocent man. Because human greed knows no limits, it spills over the blood like poison. It penetrates into souls, cripples them, and dries them up. Such vices must be suppressed in their infancy, otherwise the consequences can be monstrous. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel. There are many shocking stories ahead of you.